Hey guys, it's Curt and John with FLR, and today we're excited to showcase the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro Comp.
Back in March of 2022, Springfield announced the Hellcat Pro. This year, Springfield has upped their game again by coming out with the Hellcat Pro Comp. Comp in the slide, built in. Yeah.
All right, we are trying out the new Hellcat Pro Comp. Let's see how she does. So we're gonna shoot the standard one first, and then we'll compare. All right, ready?
Ready.
All right. Cool. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, that's so much better. You could definitely tell a difference. You've got a little bit louder report on it, obviously, because you're getting that from the comp, but this just took a really, really good EDC and stepped it up. So you can see there, that's basically the comp and the slide and the barrel. That's a great setup. Everything else is the same. You've got the same really good grip texture, you know, on the lower and up there. Same trigger. This is an awesome setup. I really like this a lot. Trigger pull's really good.
Now, the cool thing about the Pro Comp is that because it is not a threaded barrel, this is about 50 state legal. So if it is compliant with the compliant mags and all that other stuff, sorry, states that are not free. So because it's comped and it's cut into the slide, you don't have to worry about the threaded barrel laws. You don't have to worry about that, but that also brings it into a nice compact package. It's the same size as the regular Hellcat Pro. And it shoots so good. So good.
All right, so first off, we have build quality. What do you think, John?
I think the build quality is a 5. It feels solid. There's not a lot of rattle. There's not a lot of shake. It's a 5 for me on that one.
I also give it a 5. Really what we've got here is the Hellcat Pro, which has a great track record in terms of reliability and build quality. And they've really just, you know, added the ported barrel and slide feature to that, which is nothing to like minimize, but overall it is, for all intent and purpose, you've got a Hellcat Pro here, just stepped up.
Next is reliability. It's a 5-star. We put about 300 rounds to this gun and it ate everything we put through it. It's 100% reliable so far in our limited testing.
Again, simple, straightforward, it's a 5.
But we are seeing some wear around the port, which is normal.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely normal.
Some of the material off. Now, the one thing I will also say is that it's kind of a negative, but it also is not that big a deal, is that as I wipe it off, it's clean now, and I've noticed it. I noticed it earlier, is that because it is comped, unlike the Hellcat Pro, the carbon buildup can cover up that front sight. Yes, it's a tritium night sight. It is that high bright yellow.
You'd have to get quite a bit on there to actually have that be a thing, but it is. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast when you have a comped gun, right?
Next up, we have feel, and feel is a 5. I fell in love with the Hellcat Pro back in 2022. I'm still in love with the Hellcat Pro. The Hellcat Pro has been my carry gun since I've gotten it in 2022. So it's got that pyramid texture that we're used to from the Hellcat series. It just feels real comfortable in my hand. Fits just right. It's a 5.
So for me, I'm also gonna have to give it a 5. Grip texture on it is great. I like the slim profile, the concealability and the carryability. I think that Springfield really hit a sweet spot in that. And the shootability on it's great. And now that they've basically added the comp barrel and slide, I would say the felt recoil is reduced probably about 30%, honestly. It's definitely noticeable. Now, what I think is something that we have to bring up here is when you talk about recoil, there's two pieces to that. There's the felt recoil, the kick, if you will, right? But then you've also got kind of the report, the sound coming off of this thing. And because it is comped or ported, it's a lot louder, right? You're getting the blast isn't all just going forward, it's going up, and you're gonna get more of that. So it sounds louder, and that does sometimes kind of translate into felt recoil. Once you get used to it, it's fine.
Well, Curt, you're talking about felt recoil and the blast. You've been to a number of classes. We put this gun right up against the target to show how the blast goes.
So if you ever do any EDC classes, a lot of times they'll have you do some close quarter shooting. This is the standard Hellcat Pro. Here we go. Now, we're gonna try the same thing with the comped. Sometimes you're gonna know it. So we're gonna see, you ready? Here we go. Yeah, you definitely feel the difference.
You're gonna definitely get that blast in your face, and it happens here as well. It's not really a big deal. It's not unsafe. Just know that you're gonna eat a little bit of powder and some blast, right? It's just something to keep in mind and notice.
The trigger's really good. So you've got take up, wall, break, reset is right there.
In terms of trigger feel, for me, what I will say is it's a Springfield trigger, okay? So I find, honestly, the take-up is a little bit long compared to some others. That it's kind of a long take-up. That being said, it's a really crisp break. The reset is also a tad longer than some, but for a carry gun, I'm okay with that. I think that it's a good middle. But the pull itself, it's light. It's right where it needs to be. But it is. I don't know why, but I've seen that on pretty much all Springfields, is that take up is a little bit long. It's a little bit, you get a little bit of mush there, but then honestly, once you hit that wall, the break itself is really crisp and clean. So one of the things that I really like about the Hellcat Pro and the form factor and the size is the grip itself. When you grip it, you don't have your pinky hanging off, at least for me, which I really like. And then with the extended 17 round mag, even still, you get a little bit more. Without adding a lot to the overall footprint of this whole thing. So I think that's great.
The mag release is curved, but really, really good. And the mags
they drop easy, yeah.
Super drop easy.
Yeah. And I'm honestly a little bit concerned about the mag release itself on the Hellcat Pro because it looks pretty slim and low profile, but it works fine. I've never had an issue with it at all.
So next we have his factory options. I'm going to give it a 5 because you can get a standard Hellcat Pro, you could get a Hellcat Pro Comp, you can get a Hellcat Pro with a threaded barrel. They have a ton of factory options. When Springfield Armory first released the Hellcat Pro, it was 2 15-round mags. This comes with a 15 and a 17-round mag.
So in terms of factory options, I'm also going to have to give it a 5. It's got basically everything that you're going to find on the Hellcat Pro. It's got the night sights. It does have an optics cut there, and the texturing on the grip is great.
Next thing is aftermarket. Aftermarket's a 5. Our good friends over at Apex, go check them out at Apex Tactical. They just dropped new slides, new everything for this. So after triggers, everything aftermarket's a 5. Now, that being said, I wouldn't replace the slide on this because it's already comped. It is RMSC footprint, but our friends over at Calculated Kinetics do make plates for it, so you can mount like the hollow sun like we have on this one.
I'm going to give it a 4.5. The Hellcat Pro has been out long enough that there is a lot of really good aftermarket support. That said, there are some others out there that have more, so that's why I'm not going to give it a 5, but there's a ton of options available for this thing.
Why you gotta bring the G word up?
I didn't bring the G word up. I'm really bringing up the 365. There's so many flipping options for the 365, okay. Let's be honest, right? Yeah.
Well, delete that part.
Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I might leave that whole thing in there.
That'd be hilarious. That's fine.
Yeah.
Last but not least, for the rating system, we have X Factor. And the X Factor for me is a 5. Here's a standard Hellcat Pro. Here's the Hellcat Pro Comp. They are the same size. So that means all your holster options fit, everything fits. When we got this in for review, I took my Hellcat Pro out of its holster and put the Hellcat Pro Comp right into it, and it works perfect. So all they did was cut the port into the top of the slide, so you're keeping the same footprint. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, John, I already have this. I can just get a threaded barrel and comp. Well, you're adding length to it. This gives you the opportunity to not add length to it. And I have a feeling, knowing our friends over at Springfield, that the slide is going to be an option at some point to just buy aftermarket.
So in terms of X Factor for me, I'm also going to have to give it a 5. I really like the Hellcat Pro and the platform itself. The one thing I will say about it is that compared to some other of these sort of mid-sized micro EDC guns, the recoil impulse is a little bit on the higher end. Now, they've come out with the comp version, and that pretty much ends that whole discussion. So the fact that they've done that, the price point is $50 more MSRP. I think that's great. So it is. The MSRP on the Hellcat Pro is what, $650 basically, $649?
$649 for the Hellcat Pro.
Right? The MSRP on this is $699. Honestly, I expected it to be a whole lot more. I really did. I expected it to be at least $100, maybe $200 more for them to do this. So the fact that it's only, $50 more is really great. Now, yes, you can find Hellcat Pros street price a lot cheaper right now because they've been out a long time, right? And as this launches, I'm sure that the price point's going to be MSRP, but as time goes on, I'm sure those things are going to close in.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now, before we film this, the Hellcat Pro right now is sitting at $499 on some sites. You're going to find that the Hellcat Pro, the original one, is going to be cheaper. But if you're looking for a comped gun and you're in a state that you can't have a threaded barrel and you love the Hellcat Pro, i.e. you're in California, it's made your roster and everything's good to go, here you go. Here's your option for a comped concealed carry gun in the size and profile that you want. Now, the other thing that Springfield totes is their standoff device. I don't know how much of that really matters, but
it is a thing, because it is. If you're talking about a self-defense situation, a lot of times those aren't going to be, you and a guy 10 yards away, right?
What do you mean? Isn't it? The internet told me it's like 30 yards.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, a lot of times it's going to be the distance that we are right now, and what can happen with a lot of other striker-fired guns is if you literally jam that into somebody's gut, it's going to pop you out of battery, just enough. Right? It doesn't take much, but the fact that they've got that there is a big deal, right? It's actually, what I appreciate about that is that they've thought about that and they've built that into, a self-defense EDC gun. I think that's cool. All right, John, so last but not least, are you a buyer?
Yes, I'm a buyer. I love my Hellcat Pro. I really like this. I've never been a big comp shooter like you have. I've never really gotten into shooting with comps. Recently, I started getting into it, and what have I been missing my whole life? Why has nobody opened me up to this amazing world of comps?
I've tried.
I know you have. So, Curt, are you a buyer?
So my thing about the Hellcat Pro, it's always been at the top of my list to get, but I haven't ever pulled the trigger and added it to my lineup because in this very competitive field, I really like the gun. I like the carryability of it. I like the size. They've really hit a sweet spot. The recoil impulse on it is a little bit at the higher end. It's similar to things like the 365X, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with the shape of the frame itself. It's narrower, which definitely helps with everyday carry. But in terms of felt recoil, it tends to be a little bit at the higher end. So when Springfield added basically the comp version of it, it's a whole new game. The recoil impulse on this is so much lower. It's right in line with a lot of the other guns that we've shot that shoot really soft. Take a look at this. This is a great, great option from Springfield.
So let's go ahead and wrap this up. I do want to thank Springfield Armory for the opportunity to review this gun. They were the ones to provide the gun for us for this review.
We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Click Click Bang, out of Chandler, Arizona. They're a great gun shop. Be sure to check those guys out. You can find out more about them at clickclickbang.com or on Instagram at clickclickbang1.
Thank you guys for watching, and go ahead and sound off below what other guns in this field are competitors to this new Hellcat Pro Comp. And are you looking at the Hellcat Pro Comp, or are you looking at those other ones, and why?
All right, guys, so thanks so much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day.